Thank you for having me back. And then what we're going to talk about today is AI and bias, how this rolls out when it comes to the intersection of the research governance, and why we will also talk about why governance is the missing link in the fight for the trustworthy AI. And this is something which is very close to my heart. This is something which I'm trying to do as of now. But this session sits on the intersection of bioethics, AI, politics, and research governance. But one thing which I want to clarify from the very start is this is not a technical talk. I'm not going to talk about the technical aspects of AI or bias, but we won't go into the algorithms as per se, but instead we'll look at how bias enters into AI system and how bias enters into an AI system through research decisions, institutional structures, governance gap, and politics, what is there. And then my core argument will be very simple. What I'm trying to explain here and what I'm trying to prove here is that most AI bias is not a failure of intelligence. It is not a failure of a system, but it is a failure of an oversight, which if we play out correctly, it we can reduce bias in the system in a very effective way. So before I start, a very quick introduction. My name is Adarsh Srivastava. I'm based out of Pune, India. I'm head of IVD Data Insights in Data Analytics and Research in Roche Diagnostics, to be very specific. I have 15, now 16 years of experience, and then all my year I built digital products when it comes to in healthcare, at the intersection of healthcare and technology. So when I started my career, I was still working with file-based database systems, and then moved into big data, and then AI, and then analytics and advanced analytics, all those things. Yeah. Over the period of this time, and because of my background, I'll probably talk about that sometime else. But I became passionate about AI ethics, trustworthy AI, and then in Roche, I'm trying to solve this problem for the last 4 years now. How to build an ethical AI system in a healthcare industry, and that is why, because I'm passionate about this topic, and that is how I met Anna as well. I'm actively involved in shaping the future, trying to impart the knowledge which I gathered all through these years. I work with governments and advisory, and then lots of academy. I give lots of sessions. Recently, I was in a very premier academic institution in India, where we were talking about how to build safe and trusted AI for global South. Moving ahead, very quick disclosure. Whatever I'm going to talk about today, whatever thoughts, all of them are my own. I'm not disclosing any proprietary information concerning my organization. So whatever I'm going to talk about is my personal insight and experience, which I, uh, accumulated over the years. So before we go into the real presentation, actual presentation, I want you to meet someone who will help us to set the context of the session, introduce me and himself or itself, and then try to tell you about the journey which we are going to take. And that is what we were talking, me and Anna were talking about. I have a small story to share, but let's meet this person first.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session on AI and bias, politics, power, and the ethics of research governance. It's an honor to be in the midst of all of you in the Winter School on Bioethics, AI Politics, and the New World Order 2025. Before we dive in, a small disclaimer. I am not Arish, while Arash is a real human version, made of bone, flesh, and occasionally coffee. I am his digital avatar, an immortal clone powered by algorithms, animations, and probably fewer coffee breaks. My dialogues are generated by AI, my gestures choreographed by AI. So, if I accidentally start dancing, you'll know who to blame. When we talk about bias in AI, the conversation often stops at data or algorithms. But that's only part of the story. In this session, we'll look at bias as something broader and deeper. something that emerges from how research questions are framed, how data is chosen, how variables are defined, and how ethical oversight is designed. We'll examine real world examples, especially from healthcare, where AI systems did exactly what they were trained to do and still produced unfair outcomes. We'll unpack different forms of bias, and most importantly, we'll ask a harder question: what role does research governance play in allowing these biases to go unnoticed, unchallenged, or even normalized? The journey we'll take together is not a technical one. It's an ethical and institutional journey. We'll start by looking at how bias enters the AI lifecycle long before any model is trained, often at the stage of problem formulation and research design. From there, we'll examine why traditional research governance structures, ethics committees, review boards, approval processes struggle to engage with AI systems that are dynamic, data driven, and deployed at scale. We'll explore how decisions that appear neutral on paper, like choosing a proxy variable or an evaluation metric, are actually value laden and political. And finally, we'll reflect on what research governance must become in the age of AI. I will now hand over to Adarsh, the original version for rest of the session. Bye and all the best.
Okay. This time I hope that uh, you can hear it. We can go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. Let me see if I cannot go. Okay, give me a second. By the time I'm figuring out the problem, I'll tell you the small story of how we created this avatar. So this avatar, we created this 3 years ago now, where we had like video cameras recording me while I was speaking, and we fed it into an AI system which modeled it, and then from the three dimension, and that is why it looks very different from what I am today, because this is 3 years old others, and then it stopped aging from there. I aged for 3 years now, and uh, that is how we developed it. And then uh, the true magic of AI in this avatar is the mimicking. So what it does is, if I put in a script, the words, the AI takes the word and then try to make my mouth movement in a way that it looks like that I'm speaking, but it's not me who's speaking. It's a different AI system which is, you know, uh, pushing the voice, and then it is just synchronized with the lip movement which I have, which was generated by an AI. So it was a very different experiment which we did. But now uh, with the
If you
advent of
honor to be
all
in
these
the midst
AI
of
systems, it is very easy to do. Means with Nano Banana and with VO3 and lots of other AI solutions, it was very easy to do this now. But 3 years ago, when nobody even heard of Chat GPT, we did that, and it was pretty awesome. And I think Anna liked it a lot.
Love it.
Okay, this time I tried creating a layers so that it transitions from one scene to another, and then there's a text coming as well. Probably next year, if I'll get invited, I will bring up something very different, new. I have one video which I can share with Anna, where I am talking to my digital self in one screen. So there's an interview session where I'm talking to my digital self. I'm asking questions. It is answering. It is very interesting. I'll probably share it. Okay, coming back to to the topic we have today, AI and bias and an intersection with research governance. Let's talk about bias, why it is a big problem. But from the perspective of now someone who is working in this area, bias is in AI is not new. It's not something which was not known and then it is now introduced. It is very old, but the governance blind spots are. Uh, AI is now shaping decisions that used to belong squarely to humans. If we talk about healthcare, we talk about diagnosis, triage, risk scoring, eligibility, polarization. All these things, were the decision that was belongs squarely to humans. Yet, the structures that oversee research ethics were designed for a different era. They assume slow-moving studies, clear intervention points, and well-defined subjects. But the problem is that AI breaks all those assumptions because of the growth, because the scale and the speed which the development of AI have. Uh, it's exponential in terms of growth. If you just keep looking at daily news in technology, something or other is coming every day. You know, and all the more with the growth of AI in terms of scale and speed, bias harms are no longer theoretical. We have lots of peer-reviewed evidences of the real-world impact. We will talk about one use case, uh, but the problem which I see and an uncomfortable truth which I see is that the governance simply hasn't kept the pace. It is most of the research governance structures are still predate large scale data driven AI. And then when I talk about large scale data driven AI, it's not only generative AI like ChatGPT, it's about the narrow AI and the other forms of AI which now exist for us to use. And then the major emphasis which I have is that we have to look at this scale and speed of AI, because with the scale and speed of AI, the bias is also coming in a similar pace, similar manner. But at the same time, the governance is very slow moving, and that is when we want to talk about. I want to talk about what exactly bias is. What do we mean when we say bias? Generally, it is conceptualized as a very one-dimensional aspect, but bias is multi-layer. It's not singular at all. We often talk about bias if it is a single defect. It's not a defect. It's not a problem in an AI system. It isn't. It comes in layer. And then when somebody talks about bias, we tend to connect it directly with the data bias, which is the obvious one, but it is rarely the most dangerous one, because this is something which we can fix. But the bias, like measurement bias, it matters deeply, because what the proxy which you are choosing in a research quietly encodes into the values which we built into AI systems. That is something which we'll again look at the example, the case study, which I'll quickly talk about. Um, but there's another form of bias. There's one which is model bias, which emerges from the optimization choices, from this race of making a system or a model more efficient. And then that is where the bias comes into models itself. The optimization choices generally sometimes uh, give weightage to something which is an outcome over the other aspect of it. This is something which happens every day. I know about a system where we try to optimize the model, but we try to lock it with the outcomes, but it went into very different ways. Then there's a contextual bias. This bias appears when system travel outside intended environment. This is again a very dangerous form of bias. I remember there's one example, very famous example, where one AI system which was developed for identifying diabetes type 2 retinopathy, but the same uh, algorithm was start being used to detect heart conditions as well. And that is when the context was lost, and then it started getting biased, where the company has to shut down the program at all. And then the most dangerous of all is epistemic bias, which is the most invisible to all, where we don't even know which questions are asked, and then which are never considered, which problems are even considered worthy of study. And uh, so, as I mentioned, but we don't have to look bias as one dimension problem. It's a multi-layered, and then we should not connect bias with only with the data. Okay, let's talk about the case study which I mentioned several times. This case study is widely taught. There's an healthcare algorithm which was aimed to identify high needs patients, and then on paper it worked performed very well. But what it did is it used healthcare spending as a proxy for health need. And because patients with color historically received less care, the algorithm systematically underestimated their risk. So the system internally was very consistent. Statistically, it was very elegant, and but ethically, it was very harmful. We generally say that it's a coding error, you know, but I don't see it as a coding error. This wasn't a coding error. It was a research design choice where we try to use the proxy of healthcare spending to a patient care, and that is how the bias was introduced into the system, because spending reflected unequal access, which is not actually the requirement for the health needs. And that is where the harm emerged, the choice of the variable, not the malicious intent. But the people who are developing these algorithms doesn't have any malicious intent. It's just the proxy which is used. And you see, it's not about the data which is being used is biased in any form, or the outcome which was biased in any form. It's the research aspect of the proxy being used is what induced bias into the system. And I have a very interesting book recommendation if you want to read something about this more. There's a book by Kathy O'Neill called Weapon of Math Destruction. Amazing book. It is filled with such examples where the research aspect and the governance aspect actually induced bias into the system, which is still running in the system. And this is where governance failed. Where this is the question which we have to ask: where should this have been caught? Because I don't think that this should have been caught during deployment or by clinicians. It this problem, this proxy, and then the induction of bias into the system, into the AI system, it should be flagged during research review. Yet the problem I see is that the ethics committee, they rarely ask why a proxy is chosen, why this is a proxy, and why we don't give a ethical thought on the proxy which is chosen. Because um, uh, when this proxy is chosen, whether the fairness was evaluated, or how the harm would be monitored after release if this proxy isn't chosen. So, looking from this aspect, the governance, there's a part where the governance should be there to mandate these kind of questions, but governance looked for consent and privacy, and then actually missed justice. There's no requirement as such to justify proxy variables ethically. There is no subgroup or group which looks at the fairness aspect, which is mandated in any governance in research. And then data providence and historical context is also completely ignored because it is not mandated. There is no governance around it. And ethical review focus on consent, not downstream impact. This is what I talked about. And the most important thing from a technical perspective is no obligation for post deployment monitoring. We call it post market monitoring. This is something which is very important for any AI system which runs, because post market monitoring or post deployment monitoring tracks the outcome of an AI when it drifted towards certain guardrails. The team can look back again and try to fix it. And this mismatch explain why bias system pass ethical reviews, because from the ethical aspect, uh, it these are the questions which are not being asked. And then in AI word specifically, ethics is being looked upon as a technical problem to look at. And there's another aspect to it, which is global power. uh, this research actually talks about this. The AI research reflects this global inequality, because if you look at it, most we heard about this a lot from lots of places, that most of the AI system works perfectly well for white male, Caucasian male, but doesn't work for any other ethnicity that with that accuracy. And the system which works trained on a data set, let's say in South America, is being used, let's say in Africa, or Middle East, or India, for that matter, because uh, these developed nations have these kind of data sets, have these kind of benchmarks, and the ethics framework are produced by those handful institutions. But these governance, these AI systems, they travel globally, often without adaptation. And this is something which I see as a problem, but it can be solved. And then we'll talk about it, how we are going to do that. Sorry, but the global South context generally is underrepresented in data sets and evaluation. That is a problem which we see every day. The ethical frameworks are not exported for a local adaptation. Something which is ethically right, maybe for a certain region, for a certain area, may not be true for something else. And then you cannot pick a universal ethical framework just because you have a universal AI system running and then you are just deploying it. That is when we have to look at what are the intersections, what we can change. And this is something which I kept talking about a lot when we talk about how we can bring ethics in AI when it comes to governance into the research. If governance is to matter, it has to change the focus. It is okay to have the slow governance. We can still fix it with the change in the focus. We need anticipatory ethics that looks forward, looking at not the procedural review, but what are the challenges and tensions which can come with the system which we are developing. Accountability when it comes to data, and to treat data sets as moral objects. This is something which generally treated as very technical topic, that the AI system, there's a model which is being built, there's a training data set which comes in, test data set which comes in, and then this model learns. But we don't look at data from the ethical perspective. So there's a ethics in AI, there's a ethics in data as well, and then it comes down to data accountability that treats data as moral objects, and participatory uh, sorry, and participatory ethics that brings affected communities into review. That is again something which I keep pushing a lot when I talk about it. Uh, Ethics cannot happen in a silo, and if you really want to do it, you need a very diverse group, especially the people who are being affected by the systems which we are developing and then which are being developed. And this is not something very radical. This is from my perspective, this is overdue. We need to have the concept of anticipatory ethics and accountability when it comes to data, and participatory ethics in a federated system where AI is being deployed, and there's a participatory ethics which is happening during the research aspect. And what are the things which we can do? what are the what are the things which we can bring into these governance, which can help, not eradicate, but maybe reduce the bias into the AI system which are there, and these are whatever I'm showing on the slide. These are not abstract ideas. Institutions can require fairness analysis, proxy justification, data documentation, post-market monitoring. All these things are doable. It's not something which is very difficult to do. And then what I see is we have to look at this from a practical perspective, where can we implement a mandatory bias check on the data set which is being used? Do we have a justification and a proper discussions when it comes to proxy and variables which are being used during the research process? Are we doing building a data set lineage, or the audit trail for the data or the document, so that we can look back and see from where the things arise and then try to fix it from there? And AI specific ethics subcommittees, that is super important. AI sits in an intersection of technology and ethics and societal impact and lots of other things. It it needs to have a different subcommittee where there are people who can understand the technology aspect as well as the ethics aspect, and that is why I think this whole concept of AI ethics is very trendy, because people realize that we need people from both segments when it comes to research. And then I already talked about post-market monitoring. That is something, at least for European Union, it is good with the EU Act. Post-market monitoring is now mandatory, but this is something which we also have to look from a governance perspective as well, so that we don't fall into that pitfall where we just created something and then just deployed it and forget about it. We have to keep monitoring and look for the pitfalls. And this is how I see the future of research governance when it comes to AI solutions. And then the future is more than checklist. When I talk about governance anywhere I go, people generally tend to lean towards getting a checklist where there are lots of question asked, tasks to be done, and then you just take, and then you say, okay, we can go ahead. But we have to look at governance, especially research governance in AI, as an ethical competence, where governance is not a pre-task or a post-task, but it is embedded into the teams. There is an interdisciplinary review which happens as a default. There is an accountability beyond publications. And uh, and if AI is reshaping the knowledge production the way we are looking at it right now, you can generate videos and images and deep fakes and write papers in a lightning speed. I think the governance can also shape itself. The governance, from we have to think about uh, coming out from the compliance, because when we talk about compliance, we just have to try to do the bare minimum. And when it comes especially to AI, it's not bare minimum which is required. We need to have ethical competence. We need to have a very deep understanding of how the decision has been taken. Otherwise, the problem, and then why I keep emphasizing on why it is important when it comes to an AI, because AI, any AI system, it amplifies it amplifies everything what we do, everything. uh, it amplifies the performance, it amplifies the efficiency, but it also amplifies the bias in the system. And then I wrote an article, I think a year back, where I was trying to explain this, that AI, the bias in AI is not a bias which AI has. The the bias in AI is something which it inherited from the real world data, and the real world data came from the real world. It What it did, it was just to amplify it, and that is why the ethical competence is very important. And then governance generally it happens at a milestones, but when it comes to AI, it has to be an iterative system. where we keep looking at it, where there's a trustworthy assessment which is happening, where there's a proper governance process of how we are looking at the ideation process, the training process, the development process, and the deployment process. And then and then the ethics should be embedded into research team. It happens, but most of the time we try to deal it uh, for just for the compliance or for the checklist, but not as something which can be implemented into a system. And when I talked about ethics subcommittee, it should be interdisciplinary. I participated in a pro bono assessment once. I remember where we were looking at an AI system which takes a image from the satellite and try to figure out which crop should this farmer should cultivate in order to get a maximize profit. And then we were assessing the trustworthiness of that AI system, how trustworthy that AI system is, and we had the governance process. And then suddenly we realized that there is one aspect which we completely missed was the human rights, and that is what went completely wrong. The whole governance process went into drain because we missed that one aspect. And then at the end we realized that no, we cannot mark this AI as a trustworthy AI because we missed the human right aspect. And then uh, as a closing reflection, uh, this is something I said at the start of the session, that bias is not an AI failure. It's not. It is a governance failure. If we look at, and then let me quickly talk about one more aspect of bias which we people talk about when it comes to generative AI specifically. We are hearing this word very often now, hallucination. We keep saying that no, a chat gpt hallucinate, and then it gives you something it doesn't exist. Yeah, but it is a feature, it's not a uh, defect in a system. It is designed for a creative uh, generation. What all generative AI does is to predict what will be the next word in the line, and then it has to understand the context. But uh, it's it if we are suffering from hallucination of an AI system, it's not the problem of the AI which is spitting out that those words. It's a problem where it was not governed properly. There are no practical guardrails which were built around it, and it's kind of it's a failure of a system that surrounds it. And then if you talk about research governance decides what knowledge is legitimate, which risks are acceptable, and who bears the cost. And that makes it the most powerful ethical instrument we have. We, from the research governance perspective, this is the ultimate power which we can have, where research governance shapes knowledge, and then it also shapes power, harm, and trust. And the whole idea of inducing a bias or a hallucination into an AI system starts from the research governance. So if we have a better research governance, like I mentioned in my previous slide, we can reduce inequality, we can reduce harm, and we can build trust into the systems. And with that, thank you. Thank you for listening patiently. And I can open for any question if you have. Okay.
Sonic.
So I generally say this when I don't get a question, that either I was very convincing, or nobody understood anything?
No, I think you were very convincing, but let me see. I don't think they're sleeping.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, Linda.
Can you introduce yourself? This is something that we haven't done. Sorry. We have not asked our participants, when you have too much in your head, to introduce themselves. And none of the speakers, they were too busy. None of the speakers had that idea before we did that. So I'm sure you read the affiliation about their affiliations, but it would be very good if they introduce themselves so that we can hear from them and know them better. I know them because I accepted them, but not the others. Okay, go ahead, guys. Yeah.
Okay.
Who is this?
Linda.
Oh, Linda.
Yes.
Okay, Linda. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this really great talk. I'm really interested in it. I am an IRB member myself, and I really like this talk. Ask you the practical questions as an IRB member, reviewing the research ethically, give approvals. I don't know really what do you mean, for example, by the proxy used. So how can we educate ourselves in order, if we want to review such research, what are the things that I should look at? We are not trained. So do you think, for example, we need to include a member in the IRB who is, for example, expert in the computer science? Or what are your thoughts?
So I'll give you an example. I met a research scientist 2 weeks back, and he wrote a paper in 2008 saying that we can build this kind of AI system provided that we get high quality data. And the assumption this person has that we will have a high quality data. This is not true at all. And the
Yes.
major problem right now, if you see, when it comes to an AI system, is the data itself. So
Yeah.
it's and then you cannot use these kind of proxy to justify a research saying that if we get a high quality data, we will build artificial general intelligence, for example, right? So I will not say that the technical person only, but yes, the technical person who actually understands the intricacies of how the AI is being built can be very helpful when it comes to understanding the proxies. For example, the example which I gave, that there's a company, I'll not take the name, but they developed an AI system which takes the high resolution image of a retina, and then from there it tried to predict diabetes type 2 retinopathy. What
Yeah.
they realized later is that the same image can also be used to detect heart condition in the same patient.
Well.
And then they went ahead with the research, they developed the product, they did everything, and it failed miserably because what they were trying to do was to use a scan of a retina as a proxy to detect heart condition, which is
Okay.
you're getting a point. So if somebody who is coming from a technical background can easily ask this question, that okay, but what about other features or other weightage that needs to be there? What about eating habit, diet habit, stress of that patient? How can you identify those things from a retina scan? So you cannot use this
Wow.
as a proxy.
Yeah. Okay.
So sometimes, yes, it helps, but yes, one thing which I definitely can say, it's not a 100%. It's not an absolute solution, but the person who has this technical mindset can at least give you this idea that there is a proxy which can go very wrong.
Yeah, because we didn't have this, I think, at all. We didn't think about it at all. We do
Exactly. I lost Linda. Is it everyone for everyone else as well?
We can.
Yeah, we can't.
Example, researchers. Now, can you hear me?
No
I can
signal.
hear you now.
Can you repeat? Yeah. Repeat your question.
Okay. Yeah. For example, now we are receiving so many research about data. For example, the researchers want to review so many, for example, breast images to predict in the future, for example, for healthy persons and for those who are cancer patients. And they feed these data to, I don't know, an AI system, or I don't know what is it, to predict, for example, that, for example, in 5 years, these healthy patients, for example, persons will develop a cancer, for example. So for us as IRB members, what do we care about is the confidentiality of the data, not to share, blah, blah, blah. But I really don't know this, as you have said, this program or this AI they are using, is it really, can we rely on, can this really predict what are they proposing to? So how can we as really IRB members know these things? I really still don't know how can we do that. Is some sort of, I don't know, book to training we can offer to our IRB members to look at these things that we really don't look at?
Uh, I don't know about a training, but see, there's no magic pill. But yes, you can certainly make people aware about this, because if the whole premise of all these things is, see, AI is not a magic wand. It's not
Yeah,
going to do things magically. So
yeah.
you have to be very conscious about asking this question, that okay, if this system is being getting designed to predict a cancer, how it is going to do that? What are the things?
Okay.
So when it comes to these kind of things, generally there are deep learning algorithms which are being used,
Yeah,
and it's very
yes,
difficult to understand how they work, because they have a neural network and then it's very complex.
exactly. Yeah.
But you can always ask, what are the features which have more weights, and then this has been done by a data scientist. So somebody who understands how the AI system works, how the data is being used, can actually give you an idea of what are the proxies which we are looking at we should not be.
Okay.
This is very important, and this is something, and I tell you, this is where exactly the biases comes into system. I'll
Yeah.
give you one example. There's one study which is being done during World War II on the B-2 bombers, which Germany has. I don't remember which country has. And then they were trying to figure out in which part of the aeroplane bullet hits but still comes back. And then they wrote a research on that, but later they realized that the bullet which hit the engine never came back. So they have all the data of the bullet piercing everywhere on the fighter plane, but not at the engine. That is why they never considered that a bullet can pierce engine of a aircraft, and that is why and then their whole premise was wrong. The whole idea was wrong, because now they were fortifying the part of the aeroplane which didn't even need fortification,
Well, okay.
right? So you have to start asking these questions. You have to understand how the data is being translated into intelligent insights.
Thank you.
That needs to be understood.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Nadia.
It's a great talk. I have, it was very informative, and I have a comment about Linda comment. It was a very pertinent asked question, and I think as IRB member, she asked about using AI, for example, data, for example, to predict cancer, and she was worried about not only confidentiality and privacy, but if it really will work. I think it will fit with the scientific value. As I remember, I have many aspects to look at for a proposal or study. One of the aspects are scientific value and society value. I think if the study is very well done, scientifically it's correct, it can and for sure all other aspects as privacy, confidentiality, etc., it can be made. And if it's more, there is more scientific value, I think there is no reason to accept this study.
Yeah. Okay. No more questions. Anna, we are good to close.
Yeah, we need to close. No, there is someone I haven't admit. She's one who's asking all the time questions. I don't know what's going on. She's coming on. Is okay? Hello. I don't know. It might be. So they get in, they get out. I'm sorry about that. Yes, I don't know what happened, but yeah, this is a straightforward talk on research ethics, correct, Adarsh? Is this a new, do you have a new, is this a new project of yours with the AI biases when it comes to,
What we realize.
its application to research ethics, correct? All right.
Yes.
And of course, we understood the point with, I really wanted to have speakers about global governance, the global south and the inequalities. This is very important. And we have another one, but not coming from Samuel. He's not coming from your point of view, see? I must say that you are more focused on research ethics, and you are also related to Roche, right? So why don't you expand a little bit about this new project? I think it's relatively new, right?
Yeah. So
because when you were our speaker 2 years ago, it was about something else.
Yes. So 2 years ago, I talked about building AI ethics principles and data ethics principles. Why it is important for an organization to have one. And we kept looking at what exactly is the problem, how we can build an ethical system. So I told at the start that I'm very passionate about this topic of AI ethics. The idea which I'm trying to figure out is how we can say with a fair confidence that this AI which is being built is ethical in nature. And this took me to a journey where we looked at explored what is post market monitoring, how the data bias is coming into system, how, and then didn't stop there. We didn't stop at the technical milestone. We went till the research governance, where we saw that okay, most of the problem, not most of the problem, lots of the problem comes from the research which we are picking up to do something. We are missing a lot of things right there, and then we just take that publication as a baseline and we start building something. But at the end we realize that there's a bias which we indeed induced unknowingly into the system, which we didn't know, which would have been prevented if we have a better governance when it comes to research. And that is where this idea started coming into that, how we can do that. And then we started looking at and then we figure out this the problem with the proxies. There's a it is the ethics is more of a consent based system. It's not iterative, and at the very best, at the very high level, it is something which is not up to date with the rapid development of an AI system which is happening. And when it comes to a narrow AI, yes, we can still manage the governance, the research governance. But if we talk about generative AI or agentic AI, it falters completely. And that is we saw that, okay, we have to look at that aspect as well. And this is something which we start talking about, and that is why my presentation today.
Very interesting, but I think it's you are among this is a kind of a premier type of research among big pharma, right? Isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen any. I haven't seen Pfizer dealing with that. I mean, it's not that I know everything about Pfizer, but I haven't looked much at lately about what they were uh, publishing or what they were saying. Because after the viruses and the
No, I think we are very serious about ethics in AI. So, we published Roche data ethics principles. We published Roche AI ethics principles, and then you can just look at it. You can just Google Roche AI ethics principle. You'll get the document. There are 11 principles when it comes to AI ethics, 13 principles when it comes to data ethics, and then we try to look at it from all the perspective. If you look at this document, you'll find that one of the ethics principle we have for both data and AI is sustainability.
interesting.
We uh, we also talk about that, are we conscious while using the GPUs and the TPUs while training the AI model so that it doesn't increase the carbon footprint of the organization or the nation, or are we trying to optimize that process as well? This is something which is very ethical question, because the way the explosion of AI today is an explosion of a high GPU usage and high energy consumption which is happening. I read a report where uh, uh, chat gpt, the training, the energy used in the training of a chat gpt is equal to a energy consumption of one state. And you can find it online. So that is again very ethical question which we have to ask. uh, are we putting a conscious effort to optimize the energy consumption which is being used, or are we investing into research which is happening, where we can reduce the the GPU usage and the TPU usage when it comes to train an AI system? So all these things are something which I'm very proud to be a part of such an organization which thinks from that perspective as well.
Interesting. I would be curious about, we don't have too many, except from you, we don't have too many lectures on research ethics. I used to have in the past because of my friend from Oxford University, that she is an expert in that. Then Eileen Willets from Mount Sinai, so she didn't have time to teach this year. So she's just coming to moderate a very interesting documentary, The Three Identical Twins. The experiment made
Yeah,
by
yeah.
the
I
Americans,
saw that
that.
movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
So she
Yeah.
likes that. She's a friend of the directors, I think, or the director. But anyway, so I didn't have that much of a choice. And then I thought, let's talk about more about the new old order. But see, you think that research ethics will be thoroughly impacted, right, by the application of AI,
Yes. Yes.
correct? Have you been
Yes.
in a conference? I'm curious, in a conference focusing on this topic only?
No. No.
I
No.
see.
And it's very sad.
I know, I have an idea, because people are
Yes.
still searching for the right answers, right? But there would be, the brainstorming might be amazing, because that's how you get to something and leave apart the mess of the world, right? Which seems to impact almost everything, right? People are
Yeah.
distracted, okay? But by the news, I think we should try to do a webinar at this point, I'm more inclined to throw some webinars. You know, it's very difficult to put together so many, I love it, but so many topics and 12, 13 speakers on various, they all come together, but because it's global bioethics. But I think I should actually throw some webinars, and they are more to have a more targeted audience.
Hmm.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah. So you said that there is not much. I didn't keep an eye on that. You know, I didn't.
At least I didn't find anything, which talks about.
This.
And then, and I'm talking about research governance with the intersection of AI and
Yes.
bias. AI, especially. I don't think lots of things are happening in that area.
So it's, but it's relatively new. Okay, I have a question. So much. Okay, Isokan, she's here. She's smart. She's a smart girl.
Okay.
Can you say louder? Isokan? Hello. Can you hear me? See, she's from Nigeria.
Okay. I can read the question. The question is, how much ethical responsibility programmer can take for their project? Oh, it's a good question. So,
Yeah.
programmer can take ethical responsibility if there is a process around it. See, programmers. One thing which you have to understand. I'm also a programmer. I wrote code on a daily basis. Okay. Uh, if until unless as a programmer, what excites me, what I'm interested in, is solving a problem, and that is all what I want to do. Okay. Sometimes the problems are technical, sometimes it is system, sometimes it is something else, but it is never ethical. For me, as an engineer, as a programmer, all I want to do is to write code, solve, do something cool. Right. And then when you talk about ethical responsibility, programmers should take for their project. Which programmer? So if in a standard AI life cycle, there are multiple milestones, multiple peoples, multiple engineers, different kind of work is involved. So, but I understand from where you are coming from. The thing is, if we have a robust governance where the programmers and the developers and the scientists, they know that there is something like this has to be taken care of. For example, if we have a AI ethics checklist which can be given to these scientists and engineers and programmers, that when you are developing an AI system, can you ask these questions to yourself and just answer yes and no, right? That is when they will start taking the ethical responsibility of their project, and then you don't have to even ask for that uh, to uh, to get an answer to that question. The right now the problem is not that they should take the ethical responsibility. The problem right now is they don't know if they have to, and that is where governance plays a very important role. And that is why I talked about that, why we need to have these kind of governance, because uh, there are frameworks that needs to be there, that needs to be laid down, which not only looks after the compliance and the regulatory, but the ethical aspect as well, and it covers everyone. And I hope I answer your question. It's okay.
Okay, if you can hear me, I can quickly do a follow-up question. Thank you. So that brings us to the fact that yesterday we had a speaker who talked about the compassion and in medical field, and he wrote a lot of poems. So it brings us to the fact that people write programs that they know nothing about. For instance, if I have been in that shoes, I'll probably, if they have had that problem, other medical issues, they could probably resolve or consider all the other parts together. I don't know if this makes sense, but this just occurs to me. Thank you.
It makes sense, but you cannot expect right every developer, every programmer to have that kind of uh, background or understanding or empathy or compassion for that matter, right? And that is precisely it all comes to a very random thing. So like there's a programmer whose mother suffered from Alzheimer and is working on a algorithm which maybe predict Alzheimer. Then this person can connect and can take ethical responsibility while doing while the development of the AI system. But somebody who never heard of some disease, this person just understand the code and the data. For them, it's just code and data. There's nothing more, nothing less for them, right? So there's lots of randomness in the system, and that is why. And then we cannot work like this when it comes to ethics. We need to have a common understanding. We need to have a common system where everybody understands what they're building, how they're building it, and how it is going to impact the world, how it is going to impact the patient and the end world, customers. And that is when, and that can be done by helping them. Something like a list of questions. Did you thought about how it is going? Yes, this algorithm is going to impact elderly people. Did you give a thought about bringing a data set for more diversified population so that it is more inclusive? So there are lots of questions which can be asked, which can become a triggering point for these technical people to understand. Okay, there is subsequent ethical implications of whatever I'm doing today in the system. And right now there's a gap, and that is what we can bridge with the concept of AI ethics, and by uh, making them understand that we are building an AI which is ethical in nature, and then you can trust it, or anyone can trust it.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure.
All right. Thank you so much. Adarsh,
Thank you.
thank you for that.